أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان ولعن الله وأعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون صلوا على محمد وعلى محمد. Can we come just a little bit, if you don't mind, in the middle, if you don't mind? Just come a little bit this way. You can come a little bit this way, please. Thank you, Muhammad. I know those are on the wall, they won't move. That's why they came early. So you can enjoy the wall, that's fine. Just the ones in the middle, at least you can come in them, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. First of all, we are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the continued tawfiq to come to this community. I don't take it for granted that every time I come, as I said in the very first night, 4 nights ago, that all of you welcome me as a son and as a brother. And this year was no different. I'm thankful, of course, to Shuja Bahai and his family for hosting me and putting up with my demands upon demands. And to all of you, of course, for the messages and for the himmat afzai and for the appreciation. May Allah continue to bless this community, inshallah. And as Asad uncle had mentioned, that just in case you're tired of me, too bad. I'll be here more often, and I'll be here all throughout the year. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Our discussion for the past 4 nights has been revolving around the beautifying of our worship. And we have discussed that on the basis of these days being the Ayam Sajjadiyah of that Imam who was known as Zainul Abidin. But he is known, of course, as the beauty of all the worshippers. And the attempt has been made for the past 4 nights to somehow beautify our own worship. And the premise was that if all of these ahadith and traditions that talk about the mi'raj and the ascension of the human being, the cleansing of the soul, the cleansing of our intentions, all happens through worship, people like me have been worshiping Allah for many, many years, and yet I don't see that happening inside of my worship. My worship, that thing that is an obligation on me, has become a checklist. For someone like me, I'm saying. And so we need to understand that why is it that those things that hadith describe have not yet come into my life. And we talked about the very first night on Thursday, we talked about the idea that ibadat and worship is the haqq of Allah. That it is the only, He is the only entity, only ma'bud who is deserving of our salat and our fasting and everything else. And then the discussion after that, we talked about the fi'il of worship and the fa'il of the worshipper. And we mentioned that worship in general, worshiping Allah, the entities that are known as the worship of Allah, themselves are already beautiful. They don't need to be added to or touched or tweaked or fixed. If there needs to be a beautifying, it's not in the fi'il, it's in the fa'il. It's not in the actual worship, it's in the worshipper itself. And we gave supporting tradition to talk about the idea that as you beautify and you kind of climb the ladder of taqwa and piety, you start to see that beauty in your worship. Yesterday was a very important discussion on shaitan and how shaitan works and his motives. And we used the Sahara of the verses from Surah Al-Araf that talked about the idea that he'll be, of course, in front of you, behind you, your right and your left. And hopefully that discussion yesterday is still fresh in your mind. Today what I want to speak a little bit about, as we wrap up this series, is the concept of something called the ujb. Ujb sometimes is defined as narcissism, as self-love, self-conceit, this ego that we have. Part of the problem why we don't elevate in our worship, part of the problem why some of us are still dragged towards the musalla, is because we truly haven't recognized Allah to be the only entity that we worship, the only ma'bud that we worship. He's one of many different things that we worship. And when you have multiple entities that you worship, of course that worship for each entity gets watered down, naturally. And part of the problem are these small idols that exist inside of us. And we see them everywhere. And one idol I want to speak about tonight, of course, is the idol of the self, where we do it sometimes unknowingly. We worship ourselves parallel to worshiping Allah as well. And sometimes it's the case that Allah's worship gets sacrificed and the worship of the self, of course, is elevated. And there are reasons for that. It's a massive topic in the world of akhlaq. The ulama of akhlaq have written volumes of books on the idea of ujb in Islam, self-conceit. And I've done my best with my youth at the camps and various other times to try to make them understand the power of this nafs inside of us. Where sometimes, as I mentioned last night, that shaitan outside of us now, when we're moving towards Allah, he reminds us of the mistakes that we made in the past. And you remember that talk he had with Allah in Surah Al-Araf, when Allah gives him respite. قَالَ إِنَّكَ مِنَ الْمُنذَرِينَ. You are of those who are respited, you have time now. The very first thing he did, if you remember, is what? قَالَ فَبِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي. Because of you, Allah, I'm in this state right now. And he uses that tactic with us as well. Part of the reason why we move to ourself to worship is because we've believed that when I worship myself, there's an immediate reward to that. Meaning if I worship myself, if I elevate the acts inside of me, there's an external reaction right away. Right? Meaning people, of course, they praise me, they respect me, they talk about me. They elevate me in front of myself. And you look at some of the words of the Ahlul Bayt, and there is a conscious effort of the Ahlul Bayt to squash that inside of us. For example, Imam Sajjad alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, oh Allah, when somebody outside of me elevates me 2 levels, for example, inside of me lower me that much more as well. It's a beautiful tradition. That the person in front of me, they don't know me. They're elevating me, they're saying very good, kind words about me, but they have no idea where I am behind closed doors, or who I am, or how much of a hypocrite I am. They have no idea. So as they're elevating me, I don't want my insides to elevate with him. I want them to elevate me through their false understanding of me, but you, Allah, make sure you lower me 2 levels. So that what? There is a balance happening. If outside of me elevates and inside of me elevates, well, ujb comes about. Or Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, in Khutbah Hammam, describes the muttaqin. We talked about that in our youth session on Friday night. That Hammam, of course, came to Amir al-Mu'mineen saying, I'm looking for you to describe to me who the pious ones are. Imam Ali gives a very quick response, reads an ayat about fearing Allah and doing good and avoiding evil. And that, of course, is piety. And Hammam says, no, I want a little bit more than that. So he goes pages and pages, Mawla does, about who the pious ones are. in there, one of the things he talks about of those who are the muttaqi is that when somebody praises them, because the moment that we hear praise about ourselves, the process starts. And we start sitting upright, and we start feeling great, and we start looking around to see who's listening, and we start, talking about me. And we start kind of, the inflation of the ego begins, and we just our chest gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And Imam says, the moment that somebody outside of me, outside of a muttaqi, praises them, that muttaqi turns to Allah right away. And he says to Allah, Allah, they don't know me the way that you know me. Number one. So don't allow your reward or the stripping of your reward to be based on what their version of me is. Keep my dignity in their eyes. In fact, elevate me so I could match the level of their words for me. Meaning what he's saying, look, I'm not deserving of this reward, and you know that. You know me better than I know myself, Allah. This person has no idea. He sees me here at the Qayem for an hour or 2 hours on the member. He has no idea who I am at home behind closed doors. No idea. If he did, maybe he wouldn't say all these words. Right? Hadith al-Qudsi says, and these are very dangerous traditions. I don't mean to I don't mean to be negative here. But Allah says, if my creation knew about you what I know about you, Allah says, nobody would even say salam to you. And that's not meant to crush anybody. It's meant to say that if we have any dignity in this world, any respect in this world, any sort of, maqam in this world, amongst the masses, amongst each other, it's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed that to happen. He's satarul uyub. He covers those faults. He keeps what's behind closed doors. If he exposed that, if he put my whole life on that screen for you to watch, not one salam. So now Imam is saying the muttaqi is that individual, does not get excited about this praise, doesn't get too happy, doesn't get too high. In fact, begs Allah, Allah, make me what? Match the words that they think of me. Not only outside, but inside my doors. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So there, it's a beast inside of us that Imam Ali describes as a beast that needs to be tamed. Now there are fine lines here, right? Our fifth Imam says it's okay to feel good about the acts that you've done for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm not saying to crush that inside of you. That's not what I'm saying. He's saying if you, for example, got up one morning for namaz al-shab, let's say, inshallah, and you got up and you did wudu and you bahzur qalb, with the presence of your heart, you sat there and you prayed namaz al-shab, and you woke up after fajr, let's say, and you went on through your day, and throughout the day, you were feeling really good about yourself. That's not ujb. That's not self-conceit. Because you felt good that you worshipped Allah maybe a little bit more than yesterday. In fact, he says that's so positive, that feeling becomes a motivational factor for you to do it again tomorrow morning. That's not ujb. Ujb is when we exaggerate the little that we do to the point where we believe we are superior over others. That's a problem. And we see that a lot in our families, we see that a lot in our communities, we see that a lot sometimes on the minbar as well. This superior complex, because maybe I look the part a little bit more than you look the part. Maybe I wear my hijab better than you wear your hijab, so I have a ticket to judge you on your life because I wear hijab better. I have a thicker beard. I don't miss one salat. You never hear me do any ghibat. And instead of thanking Allah, we use that to judge person A and judge person B and judge person C. And we have to be very careful. So there's a fine line between it's okay to motivate yourself and say, you know what, you did good today. When you could have done A, you did B instead. That's not ujb. Ujb is the idea where, of course, you begin to elevate yourself without any real reason to elevate yourself. The little that we do, of course, we elevate. Imam Sajjad, alayhi salatu wasalam, Allahumma salli alayhi. Dua al-Makarim al-Akhlaq. Number 20 of Sahifa. And I ask my youth, sometimes all of you, you message me and you email me, and all of you should know, my parents, and I say this only because you should know these things. that I visit a lot of communities, as you know, up and down North America. But the rapport and the bond I have with the youth of Bayt al-Qayem is not anywhere else. It's not just that while I'm here they talk to me, even out throughout the year, someone's WhatsApping me, telegramming me, emailing me. There isn't a week that goes by without me hearing from some youth from Bayt al-Qayem about some masala, some issue, some question, and that warms my heart. It's part of the reason why I am obsessively coming to this community 3 or 4 times a year, because you see the growth of the plant in front of you. So you have to come in here and keep watering it and keep giving it soil and keep, if I give him the water, he'll forget to water it, right? Because he has 1,000 things on his mind. He'll forget these things. So when they come and when Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So when they are moving along the path of Iman and faith, and they're doing their best to block out this self-love of theirs, a lot of that is that they live in a society that promotes the self. And it promotes the idea that even in corporate America, you have to sell yourself constantly. Right? You have to announce what you do and blow up what you do and magnify what you do. If you don't, then Tom and Jerry and Nick will do it instead of you, and they're flying up the corporate ladder and you're stuck because you're too humble to say anything. And there's a big conflict there sometimes. Right? And so, the deen is saying to them that, we have to, calm that down. So dua number 20, and I ask my youth especially to make sure that you become familiar with this dua. If you can visit it once every so often, even my elders, dua number 20 of Sahifa is a life-changing dua. It's not just meant for the month of Ramadan. It's a blueprint for our life. In there, Imam Sajjad talks about 22 different qualities of the muttaqi, of the pious one. And 2 of them I want to share with you tonight. And then we'll move towards a discussion on the heart a little bit and then Masa'ib. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He says the pious ones do 2 things. Istiqlal khair. Istiqthar shar. Very carefully. Istiqlal comes from qalil, to minimize. Minimize what? Minimize khair inside of you. Istiqthar comes from akthar, meaning what? Maximize, elevate. Elevate what? The shar inside of you. What he means by that is that we should do everything we can to minimize, to lower, to hide the good that we do, and do everything we can to maximize the sins that we commit. Why? Because the moment that we do the opposite, the seeds of ujb are planted. The moment that we do one small deed, and if it has a value of 2, and we give it the value of 20, we've done the opposite. We've actually maximized the good that we do. And we do that all the time. At least I do. If I do a couple of small everyday good deeds, I'm really proud of myself. To the point where for the rest of the day, I'm good. Even if I break Allah's commands and break Allah's laws and have a horrible night, let's say, it's okay. My morning and afternoon was great. I read mustahab du'as, I read a dhikr, I had some extra salat, I'm good. Now the second half of the day, I'm okay. It'll even out. What we're doing is that we're maximizing our good, and our mom says, don't maximize your good. Minimize your good. Tell yourself that no matter how much good I do, it's never enough. On the other side, the sins that we commit, do not minimize them. Don't drown in guilt and don't drown in self-pity either, but don't be the individual who says, it's okay. At least I'm not bad as this person, or not as bad as that person, or as bad as that person. What Shaitan did yesterday was what? The moment that he was leaving Allah's kingdom, he blamed him on the way out. And says what? This is not my fault. The mistakes I've made are not me. You put me in this position, it's your fault. So right away, this grand mistake of takabbur that he did, where in front of Allah, he of course denies his command. He says, that's because of you, God, not because of me. Now Shaitan uses the exact same tactic with us today as well. He says that, look, by the way, the sins that you commit, number 1, are not your fault. You live in the West. If you're not going to sin here, where are you going to sin? This is the abode of sin. You're not living in the streets of Najaf and and Mashhad and Karachi, mashallah, and Hyderabad, where every masjid and every adhan and this and that. No, this is Delran, New Jersey. I mean, the fact that you even pray salat is a mu'jiza in New Jersey. Right? The fact that you're able to maintain your beard and not change your name from Mo to Muhammad, oh, salams to you, man. It's amazing. You're like, yeah, you're right. You're right. So the little that we do is back. And then every other sin, of course, is what? We blame everybody, or we blame our parents, or we blame the fact of the ulama, or we blame the fact of this, or my friends. We do exactly what shaitan did with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that's shaitan's trick. Shaitan makes us believe that the mistakes that we make are not our fault. Blame everybody outside of you and relieve the blame from yourself. That's exactly what he did. He didn't take ownership at all, shaitan. Right? So that's why, a lot of times we have this idea of white lies and gunai saghira and minor sins, not a big deal. Right? Sometimes in conversation, we'll tell each other the mistakes that we make. Right? That this morning, I slept right through Fajr, for example. I don't fast in the summertime. It's too hard for me. It's been 6 months since I opened the Quran, for example. Blah, blah, blah. In the back of your mind, what you're doing is you're comparing right away. You're comparing right away. Because again, these are all satanic tricks, right? Shaitan does what? His trick with Allah was that he compared himself to Adam when he was given a moment in the courtroom of Allah that, look, Shaitan, you are on the witness stand. You are defending yourself. You tell me now, why didn't you do sajda for Adam? He had all the time in the world, all the opportunity in the world to present whatever he could. At that moment, God was the judge and the jury. You convince me. If you convince me that your lack of sujood was right, I'll let you go. He could have said anything, but he compared. He compared himself to Adam. I'm not his teen. I'm not his teen. And he uses that comparison tactic with us as well. So literally the person's talking in front of us, telling us about their day, what they do bad, what they do good, and we're comparing my day to his day. We're like, whoa, 1-0, 2-0. I'm winning this battle constantly. I'm doing more good than he is. I don't commit half of those sins. And we go home thinking, I'm a good servant of Imam Zaman. That's the opposite of istiqlal khair and istiqthar shar. We should never be comfortable with the amount that we do. Never be complacent to say what I do is enough. There has to be a constant movement up to Allah. Even at a very crawl speed, I don't care. A lot of my youth ask us, okay, when will I know that I'm the servant of Allah? Ya Allah. The day that you wake up and say, okay, I'm the servant of Allah is the day you need the most help. That's not it. You have to constantly move up towards. Salman al-Farsi was minna Ahl Bayt. Is there a bigger maqam than that? No, but he constantly moved himself up. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So we have to take these words of the Ahl Bayt and apply them. I ask my youth, go through Maqam al-Akhlaq, please. A little bit by bit. It's a long door. It's been translated now. They have apps now. There's no excuses. It's on your fingertips. The other point I want to make tonight is about the heart. Worship comes from the heart. We talked about the heart a few nights ago. We said the qalb, the heart, is that connector from knowing Allah to worshipping Allah. Right? From the ma'arifat of Allah to the ata'at of Allah. If you take away that heart or you give that heart to somebody else, there's a missing piece in between. And while we know Allah, it doesn't quite sink in the worshipping of Allah. So there's a disconnect. Now that heart has to be Allah's. What I mean by that is that He has to reside in that heart. I've mentioned this before. Imam Jafri Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. He says, Al-qalbu haram Allah wa la tuskin haram Allah ghayr Allah. The heart is the sanctuary of Allah. Do not allow anyone to reside in that haram except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So come with me on a journey. Allah comes and attempts to enter His haram. Metaphorically. Enters His haram. Opens the door to His haram, looks around and is like, oh, okay, there's somebody already living here. there's pictures of you, there's 1,000 selfies of you on the wall. A selfie of you with the pyramids in Egypt, a selfie with you at Karbala al-Bain, a selfie with you, let's say, there, a selfie here, and you think, wow, this is a mural for the person's heart themselves. Every wall, every inch of the wall is covered in you, in you, in you. The food in the kitchen in the heart is your favorite food. The television is on watching your favorite game. The pictures are of you. Everything is you. Allah says, look, there's no room for me here. I have a truck full of saman. There's no room for me here. I'll go somewhere else. Until we begin to empty that heart out and begin to realize that, look, I am nothing but the servant, and I want the master to come and live inside of my heart. Right? When Imam Ali talks about the idea that stand at the gate of your heart and don't allow just anybody to enter, that's what he means. That's not their apartment. That apartment has already been rented out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't give it to anybody. Now when Allah, of course, sees that the heart is empty, he'll come and he'll put up, a picture of himself on the wall and say his sofa and a heart and a picture of heaven. He'll actually start to move in. Such that anybody who walks into your heart says, okay, you know what? This is owned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now there's no room for who? For the self inside that heart. La ilaha illallah. The ilah of the self is the biggest idol. Rumi says the mother of all idols is the self. We end up worshipping the self. Why? Because it's an instant gratifying process. Imam called him alayhi salatu wasalam. Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He says there are levels to ujb, levels to ujb. Ujb of the faithful, not ujb of the faithless. For those who don't believe in Allah, forget them. We're talking about you and I here. We believe in Allah. But we worship Allah while we in a parallel motion worship other small G gods as well, including ourself as well. He says the highest level of ujb, the highest level of self-love is that I actually convince myself that by worshiping Allah, I'm doing Him a favor. Like if I'm here at Bayt al-Qayem on a Saturday night, and we sometimes, I overhear these conversations, we tell our parents that, why weren't you listening? And he's like, look, Mom, Dad, at least I'm here on Saturday night. Right? So you should be happy that I came with you. Do you know how many guys my age are doing what right now? And you're like, okay, say about it, fine. Well, you're right. I accept the fact that at least you came. How you came, how you didn't come, how you're sitting, whether or not you're listening, what you're wearing, who cares? At least you came. So thank you very much, Huzur, for coming with me on Saturday night. I really appreciate that. And then we just accept the fact that at least he's here. We do that sometimes with Allah. Allah, you should be, satisfied with the fact that I haven't left your kingdom yet. Because there's 1,000 different kingdoms that are really presenting their pamphlet. Every time my door rings, I open it, there's another pamphlet inside of me. Another person saying, come. We talked about what? Siratakal mustaqim yesterday. Shaitan was very specific in saying, Allah, I'm going to sit on your path, not anyone else's path. So there's 1,000 other paths, right? Kullu shay'in tariq, the Prophet says. Everything has a path. Now, today's youth, subconscious, not out loud, subconscious, they think for a moment, there's 1,000 different entities, shayateen, pulling me towards them. I could easily, God, go to 1, 2, 3. I choose to go to you. Okay? So don't push me too much. Okay? I pray salah, it's fine. My mind races, but at least I'm going through the motions. What more do you want from me? That's the highest level of ujb. I'm fasting in the month of Ramadan, I have to put up with all these individuals at work and school, blah, blah, blah. I'm doing it for you. Just be happy with it. Fine, it's not quality, but don't be greedy now, God. Don't ask for huzul qalb and khulus and all that. No, I'm doing it. Don't tell me that doesn't happen. It happens all the time. All the time. We really, truly believe. Especially, like I said, that satanic trick of what? Comparing each other. Comparing each other. That's all we do. That's why I ask you in your talks, be very careful. Be very careful what slips out. No, don't say that to him. Don't say that to him. Because right away you think, yeah, I know it's tough. In the back of your mind, you say, yes, I read Fajr today. And you feel good. Right? Because we search for validation constantly, right? We search for validation constantly through our acts. And we end up removing Allah in the equation and replacing it with ourselves. Like when Imam Ali says the one who is in love with himself, he will end up to be halak and destroyed, because he'll go to Allah on the day of judgment looking for pages and pages of amal. He'll say the book is blank, it's empty. Saying, excuse me God, can I have a word with you please for a second? Yeah, this book that you presented to me, yeah, it's empty. I did this act on this date, I did this act on this date, I did this, I have witnesses too. He said, no doubt you did it. You didn't do it for me. You didn't do it for me. Go and seek that person you did it for and ask them for the reward. Right now they're burning in hell. Well, I'm sorry, too bad. What can I do now? You did it for me. This is a book of those who did what? Fi sabilillah, for me and for me alone. Right? So part of the reason why our worship is not beautifying ourselves is because, while we sit on the musalla, we have metaphorical gods right beside us as we're doing sujood. So yeah, we're saying Subhana Rabbil A'la wa bihamdih, but we haven't quite emptied the heart out. And the heart, like I said, is the room of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A lot of the baggage that we have inside of our hearts blocks us from getting close to Allah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So we have to make sure that we constantly work on the idea of khulus and sincerity. Khulus and sincerity. This beast inside us, if we give a little bit of the beast, it gets stronger and hungrier. Right? One biscuit today, he needs 5 tomorrow, then 10 tomorrow. And then Imam says to the point, the beast gets so hungry, it devours you. Because you're the only thing that's worthy of him eating. And now you end up being controlled by this internal nafs of yours and not by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Individuals who shed Imam Hussein's blood, some of them were hafiz al-Quran, can you imagine? Like when we hear about the idea of the hadith that sometimes a person is reading the Quran and that same Quran is sending la'nat on them as he's reading it. You think, how is that possible? Very much possible. 30,000 of them, many of them were the hafizin of Quran, many of them. And they believe, wow, I'm going to go now in front of Allah on the day of judgment and present myself as a hafiz, mashallah. And you'll get 0 for that, 0 for that. What's the point? What's the point of you memorizing the Quran and then killing that Quran in the exact same breath? Doesn't make sense, right? So we have to be able to understand what are the various idols inside of us. What are the ilahs inside of us, small g gods, right? I'm not asking you to be depressed and down, but don't pump up the little that we do. Always add more. If your wajibats are good, add your mustahabat. If that's good, add your... There's no shortage of amal inside of our deen. Do not be complacent. Don't be stagnant. Don't be static. Don't be okay. Don't put stuff on cruise control all the time. It's okay to accelerate once in a while and go a little bit faster than usually go. Do not reach that level of the highest level where now we actually believe the amount that I do is a gift to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's be very careful of that. Because sometimes, our youth ask, I want to make just one point here and then Masab. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The point they make is that, this Western society, we see individuals who do horrible acts. And yet, the more horrible they are, the more they have. And me, an individual who does his best, of course, to follow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more that I do for Allah, the less I have in this world. Like you see these athletes and celebrities, they're living the life. They seem ecstatic. They seem on cloud 9. Right? And those of our youth who see things on the apparent are very much confused. Why is Allah constantly giving them risk? And giving them millions? And giving them everything that they want? And here we are, we're working very hard, we can barely make our mortgage payment. How do you answer that question? Because the Quran says, كَذَلِكَ زُيِّنَ لِلْكَافِرِينَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ That to the kuffar, their amal is seen as zinat to them, as beautiful to them. If I was so bad, if I'm such a horrible individual, why do I have all this empire around me? If you claim that, I'm not godly and I'm not religious, and so that, what has religion brought you? Tell me. What is it? You barely make your payments. You have a 10-year-old car, this and that. I don't believe in Allah, and I have servants at my fingertip. Because these guys watch these shows on television. How do you answer that? The Quran answered for us. Allah in Surah Al-Imran talks about the idea that don't be fooled by the respite that I give those who have no respect for me whatsoever. Don't be fooled by that. I'm giving them that respite so they can dig their grave deeper and deeper every single day. I'll give you an example. Example in Masaib. Two individuals walking their dog. Walking their dogs. One individual has a leash of 1 foot. Another individual has a leash of 100 feet. Okay? The dog, when it comes out of the house, the first thing it does is that it tests the length of its leash. So it bolts. The dog with the 1 foot leash doesn't get very far. He goes, he gets pulled back. He's okay. And then the rest of the walk, he knows I can't go very far, and he stays within his limits. But the 100-foot dog takes off. 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, and he's flying. Like, he's flying so fast. He's going about as fast as Dr. Asad Jafri drives on the highway. If any of you ever sit in this car for a ride, please ask your wife, ask your mother, take out sadaqah for me right now, right now. Go to your room and put sadaqah right now, please. You get there safe, thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's flying down 10 feet, 20 feet, 40 feet, 60 feet. Can you imagine the momentum at 90 feet this dog has? He thinks for a moment, I have no leash on me. Until he hits the 99th feet. And then that hits, and the yank on the dog is so vicious because he actually believed that the 90th feet that I had nothing, I was free. So you're flying and say, yeah, I'm flying, man. 40, 50, 60, 80, 90 feet. Then that yank kills him. As opposed to the 1 foot dog. He never even got off the ground. No momentum whatsoever. Allah gives thousands of feet of a leash to these individuals. Go, race, go, make your millions, steal, cheat, lie, sell your body, sell your soul, sell your principles. But when that leash ends, that yank will be so vicious that it'll be very, very difficult. Don't be fooled, my youth, don't be fooled by the respite, by the time that Allah gives. Don't be fooled by the idea that Allah, why is Allah giving everything? No, that's a leash that gets longer and longer and longer. The longer the leash, the more prideful they become. Until that leash ends. Right? Stay within your limits. Serve Allah only and remove the idols inside your heart. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Because you look at the idea on the day of Ashura, and you would think for a moment that Imam Hussein maybe one moment would sit there and tell Allah, Allah, I'm your hujjat. I'm your wali. You're spreading the deen through me. I'm the son of Fatima, I'm the son of Ali, I'm the grandson of your Habib. Nowhere, anywhere in our books did we ever hear the idea that maybe he said, this might be a little bit too much. I've done everything for you. As I said last time at the Shabbat, it was almost as if, like Hussein was almost like challenging God in the best of ways. But God, I can take it. I can take it. And it's one thing for him to have that inside of him. It's one thing for him to export that onto his circle around him. And you look at the idea and the concept of the mission of Bibi Zainab. And Imam Sajjad both. This same Imam Sajjad, and I mentioned this already for a few nights now. This dedication he had to his father's mission is remarkable. Your father passes away, and first 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5, 6, 7 years. After the 10th or 11th year, it's not that you forget, but the tears dry up. You can start to talk about what happened with your father, because you can start to actually reminisce about, maybe watch a video of him, maybe look at a photo of him, blah, blah. After 10 or 11, 15, 20 years, after 35 years, definitely now, you can talk about, Dad did this, I remember those days, but the first year you can't even mention his name. You can't even see a photo of his. But Imam Sajjad, 35 years after the day of Ashura, cried for his father like he cried for his father on Sham Ghariba. His last few moments in this life, the doctors come, the tabib comes and tells our fifth Imam that, look, your father is very ill, he's very weak. Now it's your time to make things very comfortable. So they would prepare a bed for Imam Sajjad. And they would say, Baba, this bed's for you, please. The doctor said, you need rest. And he says, remove this bed from me, please. They would take the mattress or the sponge or whatever they had to put on the ground, fine. He says, no, remove that as well. They put a firsh, a carpet, remove that as well. He says, remove it until we get to the khak of the house itself. He says, why? Why, Baba? Because I don't want any comfort in my last few moments. My Baba Hussein left this world in the khak of Karbala. There are 3 mayyats that we have. 3 mayyats that are very difficult to describe in history. One of them is Sayyida Fatima Zahra. Imam Ali is giving ghusl with Asma bint Umais. The kids are crying outside the room. Imam Ali says, Asma, go outside and quiet the kids down. I don't want the neighbors to be upset. Asma leaves the room, quiets the kids down. She said, the moment I left the room, I could hear a shriek, a cry. I come running in. I said, Mawla, if anyone told me that you would cry like this, I wouldn't believe you. What happened? You're quieting the children down, but you're crying the most. He said, Asma, what do I tell you? I'm doing ghusl of Fatima, and my hand went over her ribs. I didn't realize that her ribs were completely broken. The second janazah was that of Sakina. Imam Asad Jafri, Sakina has left this world. Now the idea comes, how do we bury the 4-year-old of Hussein? Where do we take her? The first question the Bibi Zainab says, hey Imam Sajjad, you're the Imam al-Waqt. What do? Do we wrap her in the kafan? Do we take off her kurta? What do? They examined her body. They looked at her body. Imam Sajjad says, we cannot remove the kurta from Sham Ghariba. There's zakham upon zakham upon zakham. If we try to take off that kurta, it'll take her flesh away from her. Bibi says, what do? Sajjad then digs a grave in that zindan. He goes in the grave. Zainab lowers the body down. The third body is that of Imam Zain al-Abidin. Imam Muhammad Baqir narrates, I'm giving ghusl to my father. I turned him on his right side. I saw his neck. I began to cry. There were still those marks from that taqir that had the wrist, the foot. Baba, 35 years after the day of Ashura, you still have those marks. He would say that when that dog was taken off the neck of Imam Sajjad, pieces of Imam Sajjad's flesh would come off bit by bit, bit by bit. Imam Muhammad Baqir begins to cry, gives his father ghusl, wraps it in kafan and buries Imam Sajjad. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. مات يا حسين يا حسين.